Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal-Brainspace, the industry's leading AI eDiscovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in eDiscovery. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Each week, I host an episode, or more this week, of eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries and in eDiscovery and related areas. We are obviously not on our regular Friday morning time slot. Today, we are at the Georgetown Advanced eDiscovery Institute. This is the second of 4 podcasts I will be doing today. We'll see how if I get through here without stumbling over myself too much.
You're doing great so far, George.
We'll see. We'll get there. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. My guest for this podcast is Joe Martinez. Joe is Chief Technology Officer at ETRM Group. Joe, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure and an honor. It's nice to see you again.
Likewise, glad to have you here. Let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Who are you? How did you get into this space? And then what's this organization you work for?
All righty. So my name is Joe Martinez. And wow, how did I get into this space? Not on purpose. So I don't think many people get into the eDiscovery space intentionally.
Yeah. A side note, that is changing.
It is.
I have now talked on this podcast, as well as elsewhere, with a few people who actually, in law school, said, I want to go into eDiscovery and do that.
Wow.
A total, not possible when we got into it.
No.
Roll back the clock then.
Right.
You got into it how?
So by happenstance. So I started my career in technology in the military. I served in the United States Army from 1999 until about 2006. And I was an investigator. And after a couple of years of doing regular investigations, I started doing what they called cybercrime at the time. And this was the early 2000s, so there were not a lot of products out there. There was not a lot of software, a lot of homegrown things, and we were doing, investigations basically at the edge of our seats, and trying to figure things out and work in this space where there was not a lot of support and resources available.
So you had to be quite resourceful yourself.
Just a bit, yes. Yes, and then deal with a government checkbook, so you had to make do with the things that you had. But we were blessed to become exposed to products that we would then later use full time. At the time, Encase was the big product out there.
It was the dominant product for anybody doing any sort of computer forensic investigation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my unit was one of the first ones that was actually able to use Encase to do collections over the network. That was unheard of at the time, and that's since spawned many generations of products, but that's where I got my start. So when I left the military, I went to do computer forensics in the commercial space, and one of my clients was an eDiscovery vendor at the time. So I was doing computer forensics for them, and after about a year, they said, "Hey, why don't you come do this for us full time, because we do a lot of this." So I did, and ended up in an eDiscovery vendor. At the time, it was Innovative Discovery, now Innovative Driven.
Right.
So I spent almost 15 years there. Basically learning the ins and outs of litigation support, and growing outside of the tiny little bubble that was forensics to then work on eDiscovery, all different types of litigation matters, moving into hosting, cybersecurity, privacy, that kind of thing. So it kind of blossomed forth, again, by happenstance, into a pretty long career in the space, touching upon, all the different aspects that technology utilizes, in order for people to do their jobs.
And then you got to where you are today, the organization you are with now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm with ETRM Group,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been around for a little while.
Well, how long?
The organization's been around for a little over 2 years.
Right.
I joined at the beginning of 2022. I was previously at a law firm,
Mhm.
small law firm,
Okay.
Consulting on technology matters. So we've since had a couple of acquisitions that are all on our website. Most recently, we merged with L2 Services, which is a large production services provider in Chicago and New York. So we're basically becoming one large family that's addressing all the different aspects of e-discovery. So no longer production and trial graphics and things like that. We're now moving their customers into bigger conversations like information governance and privacy, ROT, what to do with data, and bringing that customer service centric feel that's kind of been lost in the big vendor shuffle of the late 2010s. So
keeping that client-driven focus and individualized service piece that sometimes goes away.
Absolutely. Well, it does go away, and I think one of the biggest issues is that as technology becomes commoditized, as customer data becomes commoditized, as where people store their stuff becomes commoditized, there's really not many things that differentiate a service provider anymore. And one of the big things is having that customer-centric focus. So they're not getting lost in this big shuffle of 40 people who don't know their names, people who understand their projects, know their projects, and, smaller, concise core teams that can handle client work in a timely and well-governed manner.
How do you maintain that customer-centric focus? Because even a small shop can drift away from that.
Absolutely, it can. And I think one of the biggest things, having been in this industry for I had hair when I started in this industry. I think you did too, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Yes, I think we all did. But that's since gone away.
Yep.
No, I think one of the biggest things to realize is that there are very few differentiators anymore. So having project management staff, having technical management staff that always keep the client, their needs and their requests, keep them at the forefront of anything, it goes a long way to make sure that you're engaged with your customers and make sure that you have the time and wherewithal to address their needs in a timely manner, that you're not overbooked. And again, we keep at least our technical and our project management folks in these basically little pods that they have the time to address their clients' requests and respond to them in a timely manner, not go into a queue, opening a ticket, getting into a queue. We'll get back to you in 24 hours.
So you take a pod-based approach where there's a team assigned to a client.
A dedicated team, that's assigned to one or more clients. But, we know how to handle, all firms and all corporations have different workflows. Some are more timely than others. Everybody knows productions happen on Friday still. So, we make sure that our teams are scaled to be able to handle those requests depending on the type of customer that it is.
It is not easy to manage the logistics of all of that. How do you accomplish that?
Interestingly enough, you would think it's not, but living in a post-COVID world, you have the flexibility and scalability to not have all of your people confined to one office working within one time zone.
Right.
So you can have groups of teams that span time zones, that work at different schedules. So there's bleed over between the different groups, and that there's no big portions of time that are left unattended. So scalability and flexibility in working across different time zones makes it natural to be able to function in that type of environment quite easily. Knock on wood.
Of course. One of the things you mentioned earlier in the discussion was, I'll summarize and translate, but one of the things you bring to bear are those skills you developed doing forensic examinations, which isn't necessarily a background people bring to this. What are those skills and what's the advantage of them?
Absolutely. So no matter where I've worked, to include where we're at now, taking a forensic approach to the organization and management of data, especially when it comes to e-discovery and litigation, really is paramount to be able to speak to where your data are at any given time, where it came from, the validity of the data, and ensuring that nothing happened to that data along the way. So, while I applaud vendors and products that get data quickly. Because speed is the name of the game in some respects. Being able to speak to where every single bit and byte is from a forensic level of surety is, really, it can't be overstated how important that is. Because, I've been in this industry long enough to know there's always, whether a case is large or small, there's always that, well, where did this file come from? What happened to this file? And can you speak to it? And 90% of the time it's the vendor smoke and mirror game. But being able to speak to it intelligently and timely is really important. So I think having the ability to use forensic processes and procedures, and not all of them, just the ones that speak to that type of matter and the type of data that you have, is important in order to bring that level of assurity to customers that you're not, again, playing the vendor game.
Yeah. Yep. So you said your group, ETRM group, has been around for about 2 years, which would suggest that 3 years ago it hadn't been around. Where did this group come from? What's its origin story?
Sure. So it's a group of folks in the industry who have seen problems that need to be addressed and decided to essentially come together and find products or find organizations or find technology that can help customers, answer some of those things that are not getting done in the workspace, whether it's better consulting, a more customer-centric focus, bringing information governance and privacy procedures to organizations that don't do it on a day-to-day basis, or they do it on paper and they don't do it in real life. And showing that both in a corporate and a government perspective, because that's our two, client avenues, the law firm / corporation side plus government services, showing them that you can have products that answer these things. You can have competing products that do different things, but having someone who can help you navigate them, show you how to use them, and show you how to answer all of the mail, no pun intended, when it comes to all the different types of services that are available for your data, which is privacy, information governance, e-discovery, and data management. They all, all products can do those sorts of things, whether it's an e-discovery product or not, or an information governance tool. They can all do those things. They just give you different sorts of output. But you're doing all these things to the same set of data. So why not wrap your hands around it from a comprehensive perspective, whether it's a product that you buy or a service that you offer, and get your hands around it and understand your data a little better.
You mentioned two groups of clients, the law firm side and the government side. On the law firm side, where do you fit in the overall law firm picture, which we know runs everywhere from solo practitioners to firms with, 10,000 attorneys or more?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're not picky on who our customers are. So we do service small to mid-sized law firms, and we also have larger law firm customers as well. And we runs the gamut on the type of services, whether it's a outside third-party consultant, or we're doing your traditional e-discovery services where we're helping customers, especially in the cloud age, helping customers collect that data in a sound and verifiable manner, to helping them process that data or doing that ourselves, to hosting it and document review, everything in between. We still offer hard copy services. There's still a lot of paper out there in the world, strangely enough. Yeah.
We tend to forget, but it's there.
No, I haven't, because I see a lot of it.
Okay. All the way up through deposition expert services and
Absolutely.
the like.
Yep, runs the whole gamut. And like I said, we're touching upon things that are still needed out there. If people did not care about who manages their projects and their level of attentiveness, I wouldn't have much to do. So, it's still a service that's needed.
And what does it look like on the government side?
Government's a little bit different. It's a much slower burn in terms of the sales cycle, and they want more comprehensive solutions. When they put out requests for proposals or requests for questions, they're usually looking for one big comprehensive either product or set of products, plus the consulting in order to implement that product, teach them how to use that product, and teach them how to maintain that product. So, it really depends on what the ask is. So, we try to stay or navigate towards proposals where we know that we have a value add.
As you look at the industry as a whole, the market that we are in, what are what you see as some of the biggest challenges facing us? And then we'll see if you have any thoughts about how to address those challenges.
Not a small question at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
So I think some of the biggest challenges in this industry in particular is, if we're focusing solely on e-discovery, is the commoditization of the market, right? Vendors have become commoditized, right? They've consolidated and gotten bigger, and they all kind of sort of do the same thing. Products, for the most part, unless you have big differentiators, those have become commoditized as well. And the pricing you're seeing is representative of that. People are starting to think that I can swap this in or swap this out, and for a little bit less money, things like that. So a lot of things have become commoditized, but what's not is technical acumen and experience and the ability to show customers, both law firm and corporate, where they can save cost, show them where they're already doing things that they may not need to reach outside for, bring that level of skill set in-house, either on a virtual or a part-time or a full-time basis. And then again, show them how to rinse and repeat that so they have an actionable process that they can use moving forward. So again, I think again, commoditization is going to happen, right? As an industry gets large enough, it's going to all start to get very vanilla. So, in terms of products, there's a lot of products that do similar things, but there are some products out there that have differentiators, whether it's, the ability to use AI or machine learning. You may have heard of those things.
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
In order to affect timely decision-making, I think things like that are going to be the real differentiators. Nobody's looking for, I need a product to put some documents up there and look at them. Nobody's looking for that anymore because people don't have time. And the other big challenge for our industry is basically the misuse of cloud, is what I like to call it, right? 10 years ago, it was, I need to buy more storage and more storage and more storage because I keep running out of storage. Then the cloud came. The cloud was the savior to everything. So I'm just going to put the things in the cloud that I need. But since cloud has become commoditized and is so inexpensive, people aren't throwing out stuff anymore. So, and it scales, right? And it scales ad infinitum, right? So you have now a cloud storage that you cannot touch and put your hands on that is growing and growing and growing and growing, and you're not cleaning up your data. So you face things like rot. So you're back to the same problems you were 10 years ago.
I remember the R, redundancy, or redundant. The O, obsolete.
Yeah.
But the T, I've forgotten. What is the T?
I use it for trash.
Trash. Yes. That is the T. I've forgotten. Yeah.
But yeah, people seem to forget that since I don't have a physical server in my office or in a data center anymore, it's out in the ether that is the cloud, which is at the end of the day someone else's server, right?
Yep.
But since it scales and you don't have to make it scale, people
you don't
are
have
storing
to go out
more.
And buy another hard drive. It
Correct.
Just magically, that space appears and magically your bill gets larger.
That's right. But when it happens so incrementally, you don't notice that. But again, people are storing just as much data as they were 10 years ago. And they're not diligent, they're not cleaning up, and they're not using their policies and procedures on data management to maintain that. And I can say that with certainty. 100% of the customers that we work with will have data that falls outside way any sorts of dates and times that it needed to be kept.
You mentioned at the beginning that addressing the challenge of rot is one of the things you all do. Now you've brought up rot. How do you help people address that part of it?
Sure. So it's great to be in a position where you're already touching the customer's data and you're already there. So you can give them firsthand examples as opposed to pie in the sky charts and things like that, or your data will go down by X percentage. When you can show them, hey, this is stuff that's been around since the late 1990s. Do you really need this? Or, this is stuff you migrated from an on-premise server into the cloud. Is it relevant to you anymore?
Right.
And then also having products and technologies that can either index or search, whether at a tactical level or at a conceptual level, show them, hey, this is the type of data that you have. What do you want to do with it? Because you don't need to keep it anymore.
Yep.
And once you give them those assurances and show them in a real world scenario that this is what you're doing and this is how much it's costing you, and these are the potential pitfalls you could have if you keep this stuff, then it becomes a much more simple conversation to have.
Well, one of the challenges with making the decision to delete that data long has been determining what portion of that data is or is supposed to be subject to a legal hold and then be held on to, and what portion is otherwise subject to some other retention requirement. Do you help people try to address those two issues?
Sometimes it depends on how how well, to be frank, how well their IT departments and their legal departments get along, right? Because those are two separate and distinct silos that both care about data, but from completely different perspectives, right? So you have the IT people that always want to manage costs, they want to manage security, and they want to manage the ability to access data, right? They always care about the CIA, the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability. And then you have the legal department, which they don't care about how much it costs to store it. They don't care how much you have stored. They want to know what are the legal ramifications of having this data, using this data, or getting rid of that data. So I think in organizations that have mature departments that can actually talk to each other, they're a bit more successful when it comes to that. Whether it's having a product in place that will, answer the mail on that. This is how old my data is. This is how long it's been up there. This is when it needs to come down. And they have, whether it's cloud or on-prem products that can facilitate those decisions, or are they not getting along? And is it always an argument over who gets more money and, where is that money going to go, whether it's towards IT or towards legal? So it's always an argument. But again, I think we've come to at least a couple of years ago, we've come to a juncture point in the industry where, again, those e-discovery products do a lot of the same things that those information governance and privacy products do. So pick one and just do all of them,
Right. So 1, commoditization, 2, cloud leading into rot. What do you have a third major challenge area? As if those two weren't enough.
No, I think those two for now.
Okay.
We don't have hours on this chat, so yeah, those two are good.
We got about 3 more minutes and 15 seconds.
Oh wow! Okay.
Left. So let's. I'll do this occasionally. Let's rub our crystal ball, our collective crystal balls.
Gotcha.
Here. I want you to look into your ideal future, and I'll phrase this a little differently. What would your ideal world of e-discovery look like? Assume no technological barriers.
Okay.
Suspend, if you want to, the laws of physics. I don't care.
Okay.
Ideal e-discovery world. What would it be like?
Okay. My ideal e-discovery world would be one single ecosystem where the customer's data is, and the products are also there that can touch that customer's data, no matter where it is. Search, touch, pull metadata from that location, make it available for searching, running reports on, that kind of thing, while leaving it in place. So not pulling data over into 19 different places. The data remains in its location and you're pulling information back from it. And then also have the ability to do those higher functions like machine learning and artificial intelligence on that data where it lives. So not making 45 copies of the data in order to do one task, and having a single place where I like to call it a single source of truth. So one place where your data are, and it's never going to leave, and you being able to manipulate or touch or pull information from that data from a single location.
So let's push it a little farther.
Okay.
You've got one source of the data. You've got access to that data in any way you want. You have the ability to work with that data in any way you want. What would that ability to work with it? Because I got my timing off. You got more time than I thought.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll keep talking.
Yeah, we can keep talking. The ability to work with it in any way you can imagine. What ways would you like to be able to work with that data?
So a lot of the things that we currently have, in the market today, things like visualizing my data. I can't overstate how important that is, right? When we're talking about terabytes or petabytes of data, looking at a list of files is draconian and it's very 1996, right? It doesn't work anymore. And I can't take things and put them into Excel. So being able to quickly visualize my data. And I think we've come to again, another juncture point in the industry where, since data is in the cloud and a lot of it is stored in a way where it's very quick to retrieve, why not leverage that and bring back near real-time or real-time information, as opposed to the old school way of doing it. I'm going to take the data, I'm going to index it. I'm going to prepare it. I'm going to normalize the text. And I mean, I think we've come to a place technology-wise where we don't need to do that anymore. So, now that'll involve vendors getting along. That'll involve technologies being able to talk to each other.
We're going to suspend.
I did. Yeah, I am
rules of
suspending. I'm suspending the disbelief of the crowd watching us today. And again, in a perfect world, one place for the data. You don't have to take it out. It stays where it is. It's secure. It's available, and it can maintain its integrity forever. And being able to just make quick, timely, real-time decisions, whether it's e-discovery or whether it's privacy or whether it's information governance, and along a whole range of different litigation matters.
Now we have just a few minutes left. This is day one of the Georgetown Advanced Discovery Institute. I don't know how much of it you've been able to attend.
A little bit, popping in and out.
So do you have any impressions?
Well, I definitely feel like an older person in the crowd for the first time.
This does happen.
It does. Yeah. The industry is getting younger, and that's exciting.
It's good.
Yeah. To your point, you're talking about folks that are focusing on e-discovery when they're coming into the working world. I think that's amazing and exciting. Again, you have people who are accustomed to the technology age, as opposed to being forced into it like I was. And it just makes for exciting changes. You have the ability for people to quickly move from product to product or issue to issue. Changes happening more rapidly, and you need folks like the ones that are attending here today who are able to quickly adapt to change, and again, make those timely, concise, and correct decisions. So it's exciting.
If we were able to do, which we will not be able to do, walk into that room right now, where almost all the attendees are, now they're in two breakouts, but let's say they were all back in one room. They're all in there, and we could put you up in the room, in the front of the room at the microphone, and give you some amount of time, I don't care how long, to impart a message or two to the audience. What would those messages be?
Sure.
You've got the whatever the word is, you got the cream of the crop here.
Okay.
Tell them.
So yeah, it'd be short and concise. Don't be afraid of technology. Technology is your friend. Technology will never replace humans, so don't be scared. You won't be out of a job. But learn to embrace technology and all that it has to offer. Learn to throw out your data when you don't need it anymore. And what's another good one? Those are three pretty good ones. And I would say listen to those who have experience, whether it was good experience or bad experience, because experience, whether good or bad, is the best teacher we have. So, learn from those that have walked that path before you. Again, and if they've made boo-boos, jot those down and avoid making those yourself. Right. But, folks with good and bad experiences can bring so much to the table and prevent you from making those same mistakes. But again, experience is key, and leveraging that, whether you have it yourself or someone next to you has it, is paramount in this industry.
Okay. Well, Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Joe Martinez is the Chief Technology Officer at ETRM Group. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Joe, thank you.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.
Glad to have you.